Hello, and welcome to the Whitworth archival readings of interviews conducted by Rose Slinger in 2002. In these archives, we will be looking deeper into Japanese Americans' interactions with other minority groups. RS in each interview stands for Rose Slinger's words. The first interview was conducted on September 9th, 2002, with an anonymous Nisei female. Her words will be represented with NO. NO. Oh yes, there was quite a few Japanese in Seattle. In fact, there was kind of a Japanese town, and I remember when the war started, the Chinese did not want to play with the Japanese, basketball or any of the sports, and the Chinese wore a little American flag, and they were told that if they go to a Japanese store and buy anything, if they buy 5 cents, they get fined $5. RS. By who? NO. The Chinese. NO. And he, my husband, was a Chinese boy. He knew what he'd want, and he was a very strong personality, and I was engaged to this fellow, but he, my husband, kept pushing me and pushing me. So I thought, oh, well, fine. If you want to go out, okay. And pretty soon he wanted me to get married, and I said, well, I'm engaged to this other fellow, and he says, well, I'll take care of you, always will take care of you. So anyway, and the Japanese and the Chinese were not too friendly, and when I told my parents, interviewee edit, it was difficult for them. RS. Oh my gosh. NO. Interviewee edit. We eloped. So I got married in my work clothes. RS. Oh my goodness, wow. NO. Interviewee edit. It was hard for my parents to accept us. Everything I owned was left at my parents' house. RS. Wow. Oh my. NO. I don't know what happened to it. Interviewee edit. But several months later, we were able to work things out for the Methodist minister. My parents never spoke badly about my husband, and he went out of his way to be nice to them. They became friends. The next interview was conducted on October 22, 2002, with an anonymous Nisei male. His words will be represented with DE. DE. 42nd and 15th Northeast, I guess. Yeah, it was 1 block off University Way, and we were across the street from the campus. So, when we're going to school, we just get up in the morning and have our breakfast and just run across the street and bingo. The student body was small then. It was only about 10,000. But a lot of I guess as far as I know, none of the Japanese in Seattle were harassed physically, but the Chinese and Philippines were. RS. Oh really? DE. A few of them. So they printed buttons, and it says, I am Filipino, I am Chinese, and they wore it to differentiate from the Japanese. We were in the university district, so we were very seldom went downtown. If we went downtown, we went to Chinatown where we were accepted. But the university district, nobody did anything to us. The students treated us just like they did before, so we had no problem. And then they evacuated all Japanese, regardless of whether they were citizens or non-citizens, out of Bainbridge Island. This interview was conducted on September 13, 2002, with Ada Honda. Her words will be represented with AH. But I did have a tragedy in 1938 when my father died. He was killed by a Chinese man because it was during the time of the Japanese, they call it Japan, Sino, I don't know how. RS. Oh yeah. AH. The Japanese-Chinese War. RS. Right. AH. And this man, when my father had his restaurant, he would feed a lot of the Chinese men because we were only about 2 blocks from Chinatown. And so most of them were our friends, and so, in fact, our head cook was a Chinese man. So we were really on good terms with these Chinese. Some of our good friends that my sister and I went to school with were Chinese kids. So anyway, this man lost his parents. They were killed by Japanese in the war, or I don't know what the circumstances. But he lost his parents, and he blamed the Japanese. And so he just became crazed, and he came to our restaurant, and my father opened the door for him, because we always kept the door to the back opened. I mean, locked, and you had to open it to let people in. And because we were so close, and he knew my dad, when my dad opened the door to let him in, he just stabbed him and killed him at that time. And my mother was there, and that was a real horrible thing for my mother to witness. And after he was taken to jail, and he realized what he had done, he felt so bad because my father was his friend, because my father had always fed him too. And he hung himself in jail after he found out that he had killed my father because he felt so bad. But he just went crazy, I guess, when he found out that his family had been killed. RS. Right. AH. So, although it was the Chinese that killed my father, I never held it against the race, because I had some really good friends among them. It was just one of those things that happened. Well, I think that was the beginning of my mother's. I think that really affected my mother mentally, and so when the war broke out, I think that's all it took. I wouldn't say that my mother's mind snapped, but here she was very intelligent, very productive person after these two incidents. Then she just sort of went into a shell and was never the same. She was very well educated and just a beautiful person, but from that time on, her life just went down. But she lived to be 104. Laughs. The final interview was conducted on September 23, 2002, with an anonymous Nisei male. His words will be represented with AP. RS. And I remember you telling me a story about the Chinese students at your high school. AP, speaking at the same time. Oh yes, RS. Would you tell that again? Because AP. Pardon? RS. Could you tell that story again? AP. Yes. So when we went to school the second day, the third day of school, the Chinese students had pins, China, made. But the principal at Garfield High School said, "You take those off, don't wear that." But they had China, because, well, maybe it had a purpose too, in case the police picked them up. Like I say, we were theoretically under martial law because we did have a curfew, but then, as far as the principal at school, it left the wrong message as far as he's concerned. Laughs.